Whenever we talk about innovation, we think somehow in future. The future is something that always worries us. Why are so concerned about the future? Well, it seems understandable. As far as future time is the place where we are going to spend the rest of our lives. No? So nothing to add to Woody Allen's logic. But who knows about the future? Has anyone been there? Is there anyone here who has been to the future? Anyone who can show us a picture? Who can give us a clue? No one? Okay. So we need some help. Well, I think I do know a person. Okay. Maybe you can recognize him. Yes? No? Let me introduce him. Okay. His name is Doc, and he's a crazy scientist. Together with Marty, Doc was the character of an unforgettable movie filmed in the 80s called Back to the Future. At that time, I was only a teenager, and Back to the Future was one of my favorite movies. After the failure of the first trip, which took them to the past, Doc and Marty did finally reach the future. A future that, from the eyes of 1989, was projected in year 2015. So their future is already our past. This is madness. And with total freedom of imagination, what did the future of its director, Robert Zemeckis, give us? I could say nothing more remarkable than flying scooters and flying cars. But no internet, nothing about connectivity, about mobiles, no reference to big data. So believe me, do not try. Definitely, we know nothing about the future. I know some professors who collaborate with some prestigious business schools teaching top executives on the new economy skills and digitalization keys. And it's funny to check how some of them started classes saying something like this: hello, good morning, I'm glad to be here to share with you my vision about how the new economy is working and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, do not pay much attention to what I'm saying, because it's going to be nonsense tomorrow. It's funny, but it's true. We know we must take the road of digitalization, but we don't know exactly where this road will lead us to, as we don't know either what we are going to find along the way, as life itself is. Let's now pause for a moment on the concept of innovation. Okay? There are two ways to understand innovation. The first one, let's say, is 100% based on technology. Look at this image. It can seem science fiction. However, can any of you make any real prediction about where the limits of 3D printing are? Could anyone have predicted 2 years ago the point we have reached on this issue today? And the second way to understand innovation, let's say, is not so based on technology. Okay? Because technology is not synonymous with innovation. To innovate is to think in a different way, so creating something new that gives value. For sure, technology is crucial today, and it's very difficult to understand innovation without its support. But do not get confused. Technology is not the goal, but just a means at the service of innovation. If I ask you right now, which is the most spoken language in the world, what would you answer? Probably English, Chinese, Spanish. However, it is not so, because the most widely spoken language in the world is definitely sport. Sport has also a particularity, which is precisely which makes it universal. It does not require academies or interpreters, not even from the Google Translator. A simple ball is very often what you only need. No words are necessary. Sport is also an industry, and it's an industry of an increasing importance. Here you have some figures. The contribution of the sport industry to the gross domestic product, and figures, for example, for attendance, revenues, or marketing expenditure, are growing permanently. Around the sport industry, we find a wide range of players: athletes, brands, institutions, governments, agents, etc. In an exercise of simplification, each one takes one of the following two sides. Some of them focus on the improvement of the athlete's performance, where victory is the goal, to be the fastest, to win, to be the strongest, to score the most goals, etc. The others focus on the sport spectacle improvement, where the fan is the king and the goal is the business. The fan is the heart of the industry, as the rest of the stakeholders that financially contribute to the business do it precisely because there is an enormous fan base behind. Up to this point, if we speak about sport and innovation, it is impossible to understand the sport industry as others without the disruption of new technologies. As many experts say, we are not living an era of changes, but a change of era. In a field like sport, where the industry works around the emotions of the fans, the new digital tools become enormous weapons to strengthen and project them as ever imagined. We are facing a new type of fan, much more sophisticated and demanding on his passion. The fan is who sets the pace, and so the product, the industry, must adapt to him, and not on the contrary, as happened in the past. Technology makes it possible, for example, that the capacity of stadiums is from now on measured in terms of millions instead of in terms of thousands. Physical borders no longer mean business limits. This opens an amazing opportunity to the sport industry to dramatically increase the fan engagement and so the monetization. Smart clothes, virtual reality, big data, wearable technology, machine learning, etc. All these concepts are already transforming the sport industry. And not only this, technology is even giving rise to the appearance of new sports whose field of play is only the own digital ecosystem. This is the case of eSports, a sport and a business that will exceed $1 billion in 2018. Absolutely amazing. Will eSport become an Olympic sport in the future? Why not? For sure, everything said is important, even exciting. But believe me, it's not what really matters. Therefore, it's not where I want to focus my message from now on. Sorry if your expectations were others. I apologize if your expectations were listening to the newest and state-of-the-art disruptive tools applied to the sport industry. Believe me, my message is much less sophisticated. I could say it's very basic and simple indeed. Because if we speak about sport and innovation, technology is not, again, what really matters. What makes the difference in our industry is the strength a sport has as the most effective universal language. Because no other language as a sport can reach people's heart so directly. Do not ever have a doubt. People are always what really matters. And a sport has a unique ability to do something for people, and so a unique ability to build a better society. Those of us who live inside the sport industry are privileged, but at the same time, we cannot avoid our social responsibility. While some take it, others just look on. Because the true disruption is not in technology, but in the way of thinking, or much better, in the way of acting. This is our real challenge, and when the real innovation is, the innovation that really matters, the innovation with the highest return on investment, the innovation that makes one go to bed each day knowing that something good has been for the others. For sure, in this way, we'll face the wall of hypocrisy from so many. Because to innovate is also to be brave. Courage is no doubt one of the main qualities that differentiates leading organizations. Real Madrid Foundation, for example, is a world benchmark in social responsibility linked to sport. It decided to assume leadership also in the social pitch, adding creativity and courage to the strength of a great universal brand. I have the privilege to work with them since 2009, when we helped them in the designing of its strategic plan. Now the foundation is present in 76 countries with more than 450 social projects worldwide. It applies an innovative methodology in which football and basketball are basic weapons, simple weapons for training and educating in values, with a direct impact on almost 50,000 children at risk of social exclusion worldwide. Just to give you an example, the concept of integration is transmitted to the kids of their social sport schools in a very basic manner. If you do not pass the ball to the girl, or you do not admit people of other race in your team, you are automatically excluded from the school. It's not the community that expels you, it's you. As simple as effective. Governments have, in sport, no doubt, a raw diamond to integrate in their education policies to effectively impact on the young people through the implementation of some similar methodologies. I myself have had the pleasure to create and promote some initiative of great social impact based on the sport ACEs. All of them built on 5 pillars: proactivity, creativity, the strength of a great brand, the solidarity of all the participants and project stakeholders, and finally, the courage. This is real proof that it's possible to achieve excellent results with this recipe. And when I mean excellent results, I also mean economics. Do not have a wrong idea. I'm not an idealist. In fact, I would say I'm quite pragmatic and 100% financially orientated. Creativity, innovation is the key. But at the end of the day, all we invent must have a financial support. Let me briefly share with you some of these social initiatives. The Corazon Classic Match is an annual charity game that from 2010 brings together the most prestigious football teams in Europe: Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Milan, Real Madrid, Juventus, etc. At first time, a very simple idea, but risky in its origin because of the difficulty of attracting big stars and being able to finance the high operating costs. This project, from its beginning, has generated close to 3 million euros destinated to different social projects worldwide in collaboration with charitable organizations like the Red Cross or Caritas, among others. Rafa Nadal is another extraordinary example of social commitment. I could have spent days and days telling to my children and trying to explain them about the importance of effort, improvement, how to accept the victory of the rival. I finally decided to tell them about Rafa Nadal, and just 5 minutes were necessary. In 2011, we had the pleasure to promote another wonderful social initiative, a tennis charity match between Rafa Nadal and Novak Djokovic at Santiago Bernabéu Stadium. The excuse, getting a new Guinness record of attendance at a tennis match. The reality, raising funds for solidarity projects. Unfortunately, some weeks before the game, Rafa was injured, and we had to cancel the game. An injury that, in fact, if you remind, prevented him to participate in the Olympic Games in London. I personally keep the letter received from Rafa in which he sent me and my team his apologies for the cancellation, being aware of the huge effort we all had done during the last months. Incredible. I love music. As a sport, is equally a universal language with an enormous emotional value. Palestinian philosopher Edward Said and Israeli director and pianist Daniel Barenboim are 2 extraordinary examples of innovation and courage. As a result of their friendship, they created the Barenboim-Said Foundation and the West Eastern Divan, a wonderful orchestra formed by young Palestinian and Israeli musicians. An extraordinary example of how music, like sport, is able to link 2 groups historically faced by the madness of human being. And now that we are listening to music, let me finally share you a unique example of the multiplier value of sport and music through the figure of another genius, Plácido Domingo. Again, an idea for many a madness, honoring one of the best tenors in history, valuing the strength of his personal stamp and of the institution for which he feels passion. A year and a half of enormous work that concluded last year with an unforgettable concert. 60,000 people, 40 artists from every corner of the world, 80 musicians, a chorus of 150 people, and 1 million euros for social projects in Mexico were the resulting figures of an unforgettable concert. Dear friends, few fields like sport offer us opportunities to do something that really matters. Those who live close to the sport industry, we should only be aware of them and be proactive, creative, and brave. This is, in fact, a call to action to all the players of the sport industry. Someone who takes the initiative is always needed. No matter whether you are an athlete, a media, an institution, a sponsor, a brand, each of us has the opportunity to make a first step and so to build a new story. We can think about it today, or we can leave it for tomorrow, even for next year, because we always think there is a future, a year to come, and this is how we continue celebrating birthdays. The problem is, as Groucho Marx says in one of his greatest phrases, if you continue celebrating birthdays, you will end up dying. So, believe me, today is what's really matters. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.